Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, today we listen to the words of an extraordinary woman, a humble servant of God, who received a heavenly gift of rare power and significance. Her name is Maria Simma, a devout Christian who had the privilege of communicating with the souls of the deceased. With her pure heart and unwavering faith, Maria Simma has created a bridge between the earthly and spiritual worlds, helping the souls in purgatory to find eternal peace. Maria Simma never sought personal glory, but embraced the task given to her with humility and devotion. Through her, many souls found comfort, and many living people received messages of love and hope from their deceased loved ones. This extraordinary gift is not just a blessing for Maria, but for all of us, reminding us that death is not the end, but a passage to eternal life. Now, dear brothers and sisters, I invite you to listen to the words of Maria Simma, taken from the book, Get Us Out of Here. In this text, Maria tells us how the souls of our loved ones manifest to her and to us in our daily lives, sharing some of her most extraordinary experiences. Among these, she reveals how she came to know the otherworldly destinies of historical figures, such as Adolf Hitler, John Kennedy, John Lennon, and other famous personalities. Let us listen with open hearts and humility to the words of Maria Simma.
Is it considered a sin not to believe that the souls of the deceased visit us?
No, it is not a sin. But one should not joke about these matters. It is not a matter of faith, so it is not a sin.
What do you think is the difference between those who sense the souls of purgatory near them and those who do not?
I think that those who are more sensitive and observant are more inclined to notice them than others.
Is there something we can do to perceive them more clearly?
Oh, we need to pray a lot for them and maintain ourselves as impeccable as possible. By this, I mean being in a state of grace, keeping our bodies free, as much as possible, from anything that interferes with our transparency. A healthy, balanced and moderate diet is essential, and of course, we must avoid drugs and excessive alcohol. Fasting is also important in this regard.
Can holy souls do anything to shorten the purgatory of their still living relatives?
Yes, they can pray a lot for them. They have told me this often happens.
What are the various ways the souls in purgatory show themselves to their still living relatives?
The most common way is knocking. Even a friend of mine heard the knocking and counted the knocks to know the number of masses that particular soul needed. Once he had attended that number of masses, the soul would no longer make itself heard. If he heard knocking again, he knew it was another soul, either because the number of knocks was different or because they came from a different part of the room. Then they call us by name. Some people recognize the voice of the deceased, and this way of signaling their presence is to ask for prayers. Or they can be even more active, causing phenomena known as poltergeist. For example, we might find a clock on the floor that was hanging on the wall the night before, or doors and windows open when they were closed. All of this is to draw our attention and induce us to pray for them. These are souls that need a lot of attention because they are in the deepest levels of purgatory. Lastly, footsteps are often heard in the attic. They can give a precise sign so they can be recognized instantly.
Do they only show themselves to their family members?
Most of the time, yes. But on rarer occasions, they appear to very dear friends, or to people like me, whom God has asked to spend a lot of time praying for them and helping them. I know some people can tell stories of very dear friends in their youth, who, after death, came to visit them. Usually, they go to those who took great care of them, to the more sensitive, affectionate, and prayerful ones. But I know of cases where souls from purgatory visited people who were not relatives and even people incapable of forgiving in quite disturbing ways. A farmer I know wanted to enlarge his barn, but when he reached a certain height with the wall he was building, he invariably found it collapse the next day. He had built many walls in his life, but this one gave him inexplicable problems. Thinking he was making a mistake, he called some professional bricklayers to help him, only to be told that up to that point, the wall was well built. I was asked to meet him, and I agreed. I asked him some questions about his family and the farm, and then asked if he knew anyone who needed his forgiveness. At first, he couldn't remember, but digging deep, his memory cleared. Years earlier, he had a neighbor who spoke ill of his wife. This man died, and other people moved into his house. The farmer had absolutely refused to forgive, saying that the man deserved all the suffering he had endured, and that he would never forgive all those wickednesses. I gently explained that we all need to forgive to get closer to God. If he didn't forgive, he would not only harm others, but also bring much suffering upon himself in the future. He believed me, and from that moment on, he never had the slightest problem with that wall again.
In what other ways can they show themselves to us?
Also in dreams, but rarely. The dream tends not to be reliable in this regard. They always ask for prayers or something that opens their way to the light. If they don't behave this way, then it's something else. A well-known English psychiatrist, a somewhat controversial character, but of genuine faith and much prayer, claims that souls in purgatory have specific behavior when communicating with their family or friends. Using technical language, he says, unwanted, foreign thoughts enter our subconscious. Since all thoughts must have a physical outlet, they can be expressed verbally, mimed, or with symptoms of malaise or dysfunction of peripheral organs. So, instead of using tranquilizers or undergoing endless therapies, we should ask ourselves who is visiting our subconscious with these messages and discover that it is not us who are sick, but rather someone else who needs our love, forgiveness, and prayers to continue their path to heaven.
Do you think this interpretation is correct?
Yes, it is correct.
Apart from the people you personally knew in life, have any famous souls you recognized come to you because they were famous?
Some famous people have been freed because their relatives came to me for help in this regard. For example, Marshal Hermann Goering, involved in Nazi infamy, appeared to me because his family had prayed to me for help. Now he is in heaven. God loved him and still loves him, and we should never judge. There are other examples. Once a man presented himself to me. I immediately understood he was important by his bearing and the clothes he wore, even though I couldn't tell where he came from or when he had lived. When I asked what he wanted from me, after telling me, he added, "I am Pope Paul." At that moment, I hesitated, thinking it was a trick of Satan. "No, it's not true," I said. "I knew Pope Paul, and you are not Pope Paul." He replied, "I am Pope Paul IV, not Pope Paul VI. I believe he confined the Jews of Rome to ghettos, something certainly not in God's plans. In this case, however, it wasn't his descendants who came to ask me for him."
So we have a famous Nazi who spent less time in purgatory than a pope. Some might say it's better to be a Nazi than a priest, bishop, or even a pope.
Good heavens, no. There is this difference between the two necessary reparations. The Pope had a greater knowledge of divine truths than Goering, who, as Father Matt told me, had been dragged into that horrible reality with deceit and reluctance, without having the proper protection tools. God's infinite mercy and his equally infinite sense of justice then compensated for the differences. Now both are in heaven with him, but certainly not at the same level.
Before leaving, can I leave you a famous name to inquire about?
Yes, certainly.
It's President Kennedy, who, as you know, was very loved by Americans and the Irish, not to mention the millions of admirers worldwide.
Oh, there's no need to ask about him.
What do you mean?
Shortly after his assassination, he was already in heaven. A soul from purgatory told me, although no member of his family, as in the previous case, ever came to me for him.
Fantastic. May I then ask about his brother Robert, who was assassinated in turn a few years later?
Of course. If I remember correctly, he died with a rosary in his hands, which means the Virgin Mary was with him. So he is fine, I'm sure. I was also told that his last words were, "Did anyone get hurt?" This reveals even more how much love he had for his neighbor. Anyway, we will add him to the list later.
Have you ever not received any answers because people asked only out of curiosity?
Yes. Many years ago, someone came to ask me about Hitler and Stalin, and I saw nothing wrong in accepting the request. Shortly after, an answer came saying, "No answer will be given because those who asked never intended to pray," which turned out to be true as the answer never came.
Speaking of Hitler, do you think he might have reached heaven after all?
I know from other sources that he is in hell because he identified himself with possessed people when prayers were said over them.
Can you think of any other public figures who, according to the souls, are in heaven? I ask you this, hoping your answer will once again underline Jesus' teaching of never judging each other.
Yes, and this teaching is very important if we want to be with him as soon as possible. The two people that come to mind have suffered a lot and, in their youth, had little to no religious or spiritual education. About 3 years ago, the souls told me that Norma Jean, whose stage name was different of course, was already in heaven. Recently, I learned that John Lennon is also in heaven. Perhaps you'd be interested to know that he was assassinated by a man who was possessed at the time and who was later freed by a good priest who performed a prayer of liberation outside the prison. Anyway, Jesus' mercy towards them was very great, certainly much more than many of us had for them. In both cases, a friend had to explain to me who they were exactly because when I got these names, I had no idea how famous they were.
If there are spiritually healthier people than others, can there be areas in the world that are more spiritually healthy than others? Have the souls in purgatory ever told you about this?
Yes, there are. The souls told me that Africa is significantly progressing in its path of conversion and therefore is in the best spiritual condition, while America and Western Europe are in the worst conditions. I believe both will soon face much atonement. As for the former Soviet Union, I would say it is somehow halfway between these. Those populations suffered greatly during the long period of persecution by the communist regime. South America is also in a middle position. The United States is the country we need to pray for the most. In this century, Americans have not suffered any war. They swim in pride, greed, occultism, sex, abortion, and materialism, and they are terribly spoiled. What is at the door, as the soul signal, will drastically affect the United States.
Dear brothers and sisters, Maria Simma teaches us that our bond with the deceased is not broken by death, but transformed and enriched. Let us reflect on these words with faith and humility. May they inspire us to live a holier life and keep alive the hope in the infinite mercy of our Lord. Let us know in the comments what you think, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos, and to join the community of faith and prayer. May God bless us all.